Have you had a chance to take roll?
Yes, Mayor, everyone is present and you have a quorum.
We'll move on to the consent agenda this evening. If we can entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passes. We'll move on to mayor's communications. The first item I want to mention this evening is for the board to consider my reappointment of our municipal judge, Brian J. Kloffenstein, as a municipal judge of the 7th Judicial Circuit Court. I'm required to reappoint our judge on a 2-year term. So if we could, if somebody could entertain a motion to approve my reappointment of Brian J. Kloffenstein as our municipal judge for the next 2 years.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item under mayor's communications this evening is the breed-specific ban public input options. Last meeting, we had some discussions on some members of our public about requesting us to repeal and remove the breed-specific ban. We talked about the possibility of putting it to an official public vote of the residents of the city of Kearney. No formal decision was made to do that at the last meeting. I wanted to ask the board, and we can, I'm not looking to, I don't have any language or anything prepared this evening for the board to consider, but it would cost roughly $10,000 for a municipal election for this item. We did recently, as the board's aware, for about $10,500, the board approved an expense through Polco, a 2-year software agreement with Polco. That software has the ability where we could do a poll of the people ourselves. So we could dial down and we could ask staff to possibly come up with some language for us to consider, and having to pay for a general election, since it is a board decision, we could look at doing an official survey rather of the residents, allow it to be open for a longer period of time, maybe a week or so, whatever the board's desire may be, instead of putting it on an official ballot. So if that's, maybe if I could just get a general consensus from the board, if that's something you'd be interested in doing compared to an official election, so we could get the public's input on whether it's something that the public would support or not.
Can I ask, what have we used that poll for in the past, and what's the participation rate?
So I don't believe we've used Polco
We're using it currently.
for the current survey. As we continue to use it more and more, our database will grow and grow and grow. So we thought that this would be also a good opportunity for whether you oppose or support the repeal that's been requested. It would be an opportunity to grow that database. We could really dial it down to make sure that, you know, we could look at total responses. We could dial it down to city of Kearney residents, registered voters. I mean, you can really make it what you want it to be, but it would be an opportunity for the board to get a sampling from more than just a group. The whole community would have the opportunity to share their voice on the topic.
Well, I don't want to spend $10,000. But we can, I mean, we'd have to look and see what the question is and how the question, and see if it's something that somebody, because we don't want it so blah that nobody responds to it. We want to make sure people answer both ways, you know, for or against. So yeah, I'm willing to look at, see what the question is.
Okay.
I personally think this is too important to just do a poll. And I know a poll is a valid and a great tool in our toolbox, but I think that if we piggyback this on our regular April ballot, the cost will not be the full 10,000, correct? So I think we need to do this the correct way and be one and done. And there are too many things involved to just do it as a poll, I believe. I think that way we'll know it's registered voters. They're actually living in our community. It will be legitimate. Not that this would not, but there are a lot of people that know a lot of ways to get around some computer limitations, so.
I don't necessarily feel like we have to have registered voters. If you live in this community, I think we can, I want to hear your thoughts. I would assume, I'm gonna say, full disclosure, I did receive one of those cards that said, hey, you were selected to do, I gave it to my husband. I didn't feel like I should do the survey. I assume that when they do the survey, there's a way to ensure that there's only one vote for the household. Like, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, so those are verified they're verified through the voter registration database. So the people that received the survey card, those were randomly selected from registered voters.
Right, but what I'm saying is that once I receive the link, Randy receives the link and wants to vote 4 times, he's restricted from being able to do that.
That is
Correct.
correct.
Okay. Then in that case, I don't think I have a problem with the poll as long as it's well publicized so that everyone has the opportunity to participate and that we can ensure that everyone gets a vote and not 14 votes, and that we can verify that they are city residents and not county residents.
And the only way to verify that is if we limit it to only verified participants, which means that they have to be registered
Okay.
voters. We would be able to get input from people that were not registered voters, but when we looked at the data, we would separate the data of people that were not verified, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
In order to be verified, you have to be a registered voter.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with doing it that way. If we want to do a poll and we can meet those parameters, then I don't necessarily think that we need to wait till April. I think we could go ahead, but that's, just my opinion.
But you're right, it does need to be advertised, it needs to be publicized that, hey, it's important for you to take this survey.
Everybody's been recognized, but you, Alderman Lehman, do you have anything to say on the topic?
Well, I think this is a good point to start. I think, spending $10,000 is not high on my priority list, but as long as the parameters of the polling software are able to be modified to where we get people that are Kearney residents and not people from Excelsior and wherever. I think that's the big thing for me is that they be Kearney residents inside the city limits, because ultimately that's what the ban affects, is people inside the city limits. And so whether they're a registered voter or not to me is irrelevant, because some people flat don't vote. And so, but this may still affect them. And so I think this is a good starting point. I think it gives us a good baseline whether they're for or against the repeal, and we go from there. It gives us, as the board, more things to talk about. So I think this is a good starting point.
Thank you. I believe I've got the consensus of the board to give staff the direction to look at maybe some language for the board to consider, maybe
I
at
wanna see that
our next meeting, and then we'll go from there. Personally, I don't care if it's a poll or a ballot initiative. If we did do the November election, it would be more costly. April wouldn't be as much, but I think we could get effectively the same results faster if that's
Which
the
would be on April.
desire of the board, so.
4,000.
Next item I have under Mayor's communication is the 19th Street and Nation Road roundabout landscape plan with the consensus of the board. At our last meeting, we asked staff to look at some opportunities and information regarding the request from the Wilkerson family about placing a limestone post and some items in the middle of the roundabout. I know that the Wilkerson families approached many of us on the board, many staff members, other community members about desires or different plans and ideas here. So Sheila was able to, I think, work with David Pavlich and get a copy of what the board has already approved for the landscaping plan here. And then I'll turn it over to you, Sheila.
So at the dais, I put a copy of the landscaping plan that has already been approved. You can see in the center is supposed to be all native grasses and wildflowers. That is to make it so that we don't have to maintain it and mow it. There will still be turf grass around the outside of the limestone blocks. So we talked a lot about this at staff, and we also reached out to other professionals, and there were some recommendations, strong recommendations that we don't put signage in the middle of the roundabout because two things. It can distract drivers as they're driving by, stopping, trying to read something if they're unfamiliar with it. And also it could create people crossing into the roundabout, which also could impact traffic. So there's a strong recommendation not to put anything other than actual street signs or wayfinding signs in the middle of a roundabout, just so you guys know that for safety reasons. And then there would be no reason to, and our insurance company would not recommend having somebody that is not insured to come in and maintain the roundabout, like staff or one of our contractors that's the preference, is to have city staff or a city contractor who is properly insured maintaining the roundabout, just to make sure that nobody got hurt or anything like that. There will be minimal maintenance on the inside of this roundabout because it's going to be native grasses and wildflowers. So we'd need to cut it once a year at the end of the season. And
Who waters it? Because the wildflowers need more water.
Native grasses shouldn't. They should.
The grass won't, but the flowers will.
who waters it now?
I wouldn't think if it was wild, it would require much more maintenance, but I'm not an expert there.
Flowers aren't as hardy as the grass.
We currently don't have any landscaping that requires ongoing watering outside of our parks. So that's something we'll have to work with staff and develop a plan if it's gonna require frequent watering.
I
Find
believe,
out what kind of flowers you go and how much water they need.
so I do know like coneflowers and black-eyed Susans and coreopsis for sure. I know that they are pretty drought tolerant.
Yeah.
So I don't think they need a lot of water, but they might in a really, really dry year.
Thank you for that update. I know the Wilkerson family, I think, not directly through me, but I think I've heard through another board member, they were talking about some windmills and other items to be placed in the middle of the roundabout. I'm a little cautious on that. I know the family volunteered to maintain the roundabout and the improvements they want to put in here for the same reasons you mentioned. I'm cautious about that as well. I do think, however, that we should consider to continue to look at ways to show our appreciation, not only to the family as landowners to allow this project, but also as longtime business owners and some of the, one of the original families in our community. So appreciate that update. That's really all I had on it. Is I know, Jerry, I think
I still would like to see the cement corner fence post. Thankfully, it's not a sign. There are no words on it.
I don't think that's an issue.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I would like to see that incorporated.
Yeah, I think the direction and the consensus the board gave staff on that's still good to go.
So this landscape plan, we just talked about not having anything in the center of the,
No signs.
No signs.
Not
this
with,
way.
nothing with words, but we can put the fence posts right in the center, I believe is,
Yeah. Yep, exactly in the center. You won't see a whole lot of it, but you will see some of it. I think it'll just add that extra to the landscape. And really, only some of the older families in our community will know what it is, and they will be pleased. So.
That's all I had on the 19th Street Nation Road Roundabout Landscape Plan. A couple other items. Hopefully everybody had a happy and safe Independence Day. It's truly a blessing to live in this wonderful country where we have the opportunity to be free. And other thing I want to mention is a shout out, some appreciation to staff, our street department. I know our parks department, it was kind of an all hands on deck day. It's about 11 or 11:30 this morning. I spoke to the street superintendent. They had already hauled away 30 truckloads of trees and tree limbs from roads, parks, trails, sidewalks. So like I said, the parks guys jumped in and were helping get our roads reopened, our sidewalks opened, and our trails open. So I appreciate everybody getting that done so fast. That concludes my mayor's communications, and we'll move on to the administrator's report.
the next regular board meeting will be on Monday, July 17th. So we're back to our regular schedule. I also want to just let everyone know that the utility site is still down. Our provider, who is Kuzi, they are working as quickly as they can to get the site back up. And I had a meeting with them today and asked them to give me daily updates as they are trying to get it back up. So it's very unfortunate, and apologize for any inconvenience to anyone.
All right, that concludes your report. We'll move on to Alderman discussion. Alderman Spencer.
It was a wonderful 4th of July. I enjoyed the fireworks, and that was all very good. I was glad that no one in our community had any issues. That's always wonderful. No ambulances having to go out or anything like that. That was a good thing. I would like to say I hope that we see a cover and minutes and some of that in the next Board of Aldermen agenda. I'm glad it was brief, but maybe a bit too brief.
Shirley was out of town and
Okay.
she was on vacation, so she
Okay.
could not do the minutes, but she's already got them done. They just weren't done in time for the agenda.
Alderman Holt.
Only thing I want to know is, are we still on track on I guess you call it the bypass, whatever you,
Interchange.
interchange? That's the word I'm looking for. Interchange.
Yeah, Donnie's not here this evening, but I've received no communication that shows that there's been any major delays. We're still slightly ahead of schedule there and everything's going good.
November?
for substantial completion.
Good.
Yep.
That's all I got.
Alderman Lehman?
First of all, the fireworks was great. You know, there were two displays going on almost simultaneously in Kearney, and so there was plenty of firepower going on, whether you were on the south side or the north side. So it's always fun to see. You know, last night at 1 o'clock in the morning, right before the storm hit, and was still having fireworks go off in my neighborhood, and it was a little bit irritating, but you know, it's.
Ours went silence.
The only other thing is I hope there's still more discussion about the roundabout. I got an email this afternoon from Daryl over at the barber shop talking about his approval of recognizing the Wilkerson family, and I don't know whether Chris got a hold of him or not. I did talk to Chris, and I know there was some discussion about, there was some talk about stuff being in the center of the right-of-ways. You know, we can go down in front of Lowe's any day of the week and see a roundabout that has got windmills in it. Signage, no, but I don't see the issue with having artwork in the center of a roundabout. So hopefully there's still some discussion on that, because I think native grasses are fine. They still have to be cut or burned to come back. So, yeah, we're still gonna wind up maintaining it. Maybe not as much, but I think, yeah, I think we need to talk about this more. You know, the family gave us land at no cost to the city to put this roundabout in, and I think, you know, they've been around for a long time. So I don't know that I have a problem with naming it Wilkerson Circle and having the windmills or whatever we want to call them, the artwork. I think they're kind of cool, actually. So I'd like to see more discussion on that. I think there's some room for improvement, but
If there's a consensus of the board, I'm happy to continue to have discussion on that topic. My concern, first of all, I'll mention, you know, as they did donate ground to the community to allow this project. I'm very thankful of the Wilkerson family. That's one example of many, that there are dozens of other landowners that also contributed and donated ground to the project. We're not doing anything specifically, you know, for them. I know there's other reasons why we're looking to show our appreciation to Mr. Wilkerson and his family. When I was an appointed alderman, I voted to support the massive flagpole in the middle of the roundabout. So I don't want to confuse or have the conception out there that I'm against art or anything in a roundabout. What I am concerned about, and what I feel like we have a responsibility to do as a board, is protect the taxpayers and having unlicensed residents in the middle of a roundabout is a safety concern, and then it's a liability concern. I don't know if you know, allowing them to put windmills and other things that are gonna require additional maintenance is something that I would support, but as I said, I'm one voice on this board, not only vote to tie break, so if the board has a consensus that would like to continue additional roundabout landscaping plans with more than just the limestone that the board has already agreed to place in the roundabout, let us know, and we can get it on an agenda for further discussion.
Yeah, I think it's worth discussing. I mean, the only difference is, to play devil's advocate, if you will, down at Lowe's and stuff like that, it's not a main, it's inside. It's kind of like what you got over here by Price Chopper.
It's maintained by the developer.
It's
as
not
well.
on the thing. So, I mean, yeah, I like those too. I like the windmills and I'd like all that kind of stuff too. But there's gonna be a lot of traffic out here where in there it's kind of off to the side. So I mean, yeah, I'm open to talk about it, but I mean, that's the difference between those two that you're.
I think
Yeah.
traffic could be, if it ever develops, the one there in front of Bryce Chopper could receive a lot of traffic also, but the land hasn't developed yet, so, but.
Yeah.
If you're finished, are you finished? Alderman Barger?
I love the, idea of the prairie grasses and the native flowers in that roundabout. And I know it's not in the budget for this year, but could we think maybe about putting those grasses around the flagpole there in front of Innovation Park? And I think it's environmentally responsible. We're not doing grass and having to mow. It's a great way to pick up extra, or I want to suck up extra water if we have extra water during rainstorms and things like that. I just think this is a lovely way to kind of make the gateway to our city in native plantings. And so if that was something that we could do down the road, I certainly wouldn't advocate it right now, but down the road, I would love to see. I'm all for stuff like that we can help beautify our city. And then I just want to thank everybody for all the hard work that they put in to pull off that 4th of July party that we throw every year. I was across the street at a friend's house watching it, so I didn't get like inside the park, but I could tell that there were a lot of people enjoying everything that was going on there. And it doesn't happen by accident. It happens with a lot of hard work by city staff. And so I just want to take a minute to thank them for all the hard work that they do to pull that off every year.
Great. That concludes our meeting. Can we entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
I think you guys are.
Opposed? Everybody have a good evening. Thank you for being here.
Mm.